Hello, my name is Ben Turner. I'm currently studying for the Innovation in Sound Master's degree at DBS Music in Bristol. The main focus of my research has been the impact of music and sound within the context of community music and music therapy. More specifically, I've been interested in the effectiveness of multi-sensory environments and the benefit of using low-cost adaptive music technologies to give people with complex needs greater access to meaningful music making. My colleague Lee Ashton and I co-run a not-for-profit music service called Beat This. We use music technology to help children, young people and adults with complex needs develop skills, interact and express themselves through music. Many of the people that we support are disengaged from mainstream society or education and may have special educational needs and disabilities, mental health issues or challenging behaviour. For my final project at DBS, I've decided to expand on prototypes that I developed as part of my previous modules. Essentially, for the Realisation, I'm developing a large-scale music and sound-based sensory environment called the Reactive Room at our HQ in Peterborough. I'm also working on improving and refining a novel adaptive music controller which uses ultrasonic sensors for hands-free music exploration. The reason I chose this direction is so that we as an organisation can expand our reach and capacity to deliver unique and exciting inclusive music experiences for people with complex needs. In order to gain a clearer understanding of sensory spaces, I decided to reach out to a number of local special educational schools and similar settings in and around Peterborough. Thankfully, 3 respectable organisations allowed me to visit their sensory spaces so that I could see them in action and speak to the practitioners and learners making use of them. I wanted to discover what was being used in terms of music and sound within commercial sensory spaces. I also wanted to find out more about how the spaces are maintained and what happens if things go wrong. I was also permitted to bring along the latest revision of my music controller, which I am now calling the Reacturtle. I decided to opt for unstructured observations as a research methodology at these settings, as it seemed at the time more amiable and appropriate for the situation in hand, considering that the venues had a very busy and involved curriculum of activities. This qualitative approach also gave me more flexibility and an opportunity for further discovery. So you kind of put your hand... I asked some people if they wanted to give the Reacturtle a go. Happily, most people agreed to try it out. Change the sound.
Whoa!
That's really cool.
Oh,
Hey, what do you think?
yeah, that's cool. That is really good.
I'm so behaved. Because last time we tried to do a flow of me.
Oh, seagull's back. Watch out! Hide your ice cream.
Oh, so basically I'm controlling it.
Yeah, so you're controlling the speed of the... Oh, listen to that there. So it's going...
Yeah, it's gone out now.
So also the problem with sensories is the equipment, it runs out really quickly. So we had, this one was initially donated and kind of funded in 2013, and we had to redo it completely in 2020.
Yeah.
On average we have to kind of budget to replace them every 5 years or so, or at least update them.
Jason was very keen to try out the Reacturtle.
Can you hear the sing? Have a look at this one, look.
Jace, look. Off! Off! Can you take it off? Good job. Do you want to look at this one? What's this one? This one does the same. Oh.
So this one
Sage.
changed. Oh, what was that?
This one, Jace.
Nice, isn't it?
Jace. This one's magic.
Wow.
Can you do magic? Can you? This one. It works to your hand. Wow. Can Jace do it? Should we do it together? Like this, look. Just... Oh.
That's amazing.
Good job. With this one, Jace, it twists.
The lead practitioners at each setting were asked to complete a short questionnaire as part of my research. I asked them how music and sound is being incorporated in their sensory environments, how the staff are operating or maintaining the music technology being incorporated, and whether something like the Reactive Room or the Reacturtle could benefit their practice. The results of the questionnaire highlighted the need for further interactive music elements within multisensory experiences at the settings that I observed. The results of the questionnaire also confirmed my original hypothesis with regard to there being significant limitations when it came to either updating or maintaining the specialist music equipment. I also noted that only one of the settings incorporated interactive music or sound elements. The other two settings used music in a more passive sense. The next key objective was to revisit the earlier prototypes of the Reactiment and the Reactive Room. The previous incarnation of the Reacturtle, the Reactiment, was a custom-made device that served as an interactive music-making instrument and hands-free controller for use within the Reactive Room.
Cool, man.
The original Reactiment used an Arduino microcontroller, which meant that it had to be physically connected to a computer in order for it to work. However, the latest version I've designed uses a smaller microprocessor similar to the Arduino called a Hazar32. The Hazar32 module incorporates an ESP32 chip which allows for wireless communication, in this case Bluetooth, between the module and a computer running Max MSP. This means that the user can interact with the turtle without the need for wires. I've also incorporated a small li-poly battery which can power the device for up to 6 hours, thus making the Reacturtle completely portable. Thinking about the final product, I thought that it was important to source larger, more tactile buttons and switches to make the Reacturtle easier to manage and more fun to use. The updated model now uses 2 ultrasonic sensors, 2 push buttons, and a large toggle switch that simply reverses the audio playback. The code for the Arduino and the Max patch had to be rewritten in order to incorporate the Hazar32 ESP board and the extra components. So I asked a freelance music technologist and software engineer, Jacob Smith, for assistance. Developing the Reacturtle did not come without its drawbacks. I wanted to advance the capabilities of the device by adding a second ultrasonic sensor and by changing the functionality of both the sensors and one of the switches. However, problems with the latency hampered its progress, and it took several attempts and further consultations with Jacob to make this work. Once the prototype of the Reacturtle was complete, my next task was to encapsulate all of the electronics into a sea turtle's body. Firstly, I secured the guts of the system inside a maker's box. Then I extended the wires and drilled some holes in the box so that the sensors and buttons could easily be mounted in the turtle's shell. I also connected a USB panel-mounted port so that charging the device for any user would be convenient.
Into the back, so you can simply plug in cable and charge it up.
In order to make the actual turtle itself, I called upon the help of a support worker and creative practitioner, Vicky Harold. Vicky and I came up with a plan that would initially involve her making a mould for the turtle. We then agreed to give a material called Warbler a go. This is a thermoreactive plastic that enthusiasts at Comic-Con tend to favour. However, it turned out that Warbler was just not strong or resilient enough for what we had in mind.
You pop them off like that.
So do you want them? Do you want this unit out completely,
I'd say,
or you want that it?
yeah, I'd say
poked through?
better poke through.
Yep.
But
So I can put one in the tail, and then one can
Around
come
there
up the
somewhere.
top.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
great,
they're
great.
both.
So instead, we opted for a soft plushy toy as a plan B.
I put that bolt on that.
We then gutted the poor fellow so that we could insert all of the components securely. The next task was to recreate the previous portable reactive room, but to a larger scale. This meant completely reorganising a used space in our centre and planning where things like lights, webcams and other sensory objects would go. I asked for some help from a local surveyor with creating a proper CAD diagram of the room in order to make it easier for us to plot where to place the various audio and visual elements. Initially, I wanted to use as much of the older technology we had at the centre. Ideally, it would have been much more convenient to use the desktop computer we have in our office. However, somewhat ironically, this was not possible, mainly due to the fact that this aging computer would simply not run the software required due to compatibility issues. This is something that has presented many challenges for me during my research, and is something that is seemingly inescapable. So instead, I decided to use my laptop as the main operating system for the reactive room and opted for keeping it in the office out of the way. This meant that I had to drill a hole from the office into the larger room to accommodate the audio and data cables. I also chopped up an old multi-core and stage box so that we could run multi-channel audio into the reactive room. The key components, which include a webcam, DMX lighting controller, Arduino and Makey, are all plugged into a powered USB hub which has been placed discreetly in the room. Any trailing cables have now safely been covered. I decided to place the more reactive lights up on the roofs of the two smaller opposing rooms within the larger space. One of the major limitations with the earlier model of the reactive room was that the system did not really work so well in the dark using the webcam. To overcome this, I decided to hack the webcam by removing its infrared filter and discovered that if I placed a small piece of old camera film over the lens, it would essentially polarise the light being picked up. I then placed an infrared security camera alongside the webcam so that it would send a beam at the occupants in the room. This now allows for a far more responsive system and better interactivity in low light situations. Something that was mentioned by practitioners during the observations was that resonance boards always seem to be a great option for sensory spaces. So we decided to make our own, repurposing an old DJ Lightbox. This has been a hit with many of the users so far. We also thought it would be good to create a school of reactive jellyfish using another Makey.
Give us something. Yeah.
What's that? 101, 101. Oh, that's so amazing.
We then had the idea to create a kind of kelp forest using one of the makey boards and some reactive materials. These sounds are now mapped to separate speakers that are up on the roof as well. Finally, I added another switch to the Arduino setup, which allowed us to have another lily pad for people to hop on. We have the splash sound as before, and now we have the sound of a walrus barking. Any of the sounds and music can be swapped out and changed according to a user's preference. We invited some people of mixed ages and needs to come and try out the new version of the Reactive Room at Chime.
Yeah, that's all right. Try a different one. Yeah.
I asked some of the users what they thought about the Reactive Room.
Well, I kind of really enjoy like being in the entire ocean, you know, just swimming across the blue waves and listening to all the creatures making a lot of noise and feel the little tinkles of instruments under the water.
I think it was really good. I think it was really clever how you have made it all and set it all up. And I like the different sound effects and how it all looks.
I went in there and I felt like I've never seen that in the studio before. I didn't even know you could even do that. I thought you had to go to a special place to do that, but I have no idea you could even do that. That was amazing. You could touch things, you could do things in certain ways, and even speak on the microphone. It made different sounds in different ways, and even ways I didn't even know you could even make sounds. And if I ever had any ideas, I'd definitely use them even in there. So that was amazing.
Earlier this year, I applied to both the Arts Council and the Music for All Foundation for assistance with funding the development of the Reacturtle and Reactive Room. Thankfully, we received the funding. With the extra financial support, Beat This intends to continue to develop the room and will be offering SEND schools and other organisations the chance to come and experience the room. We also aim to take the Reacturtle out to meet more people. My original aim was to discover whether music and computer technologies can ameliorate or enhance multisensory environments and have significant benefits for people with complex needs. This entire journey has, for the most part, confirmed this hypothesis. Admittedly, the situation is not black and white. Each setting has its own way of working, people they work with, and budgets that they work with. However, at Beat This, we have the freedom to research and develop new ideas and have currently obtained some additional funding that we are using to build the reactive room that we envisioned. We will invite anyone to come and take part in what we believe is a truly unique and meaningful music making experience.